Hi everyone, this is Jim. Welcome to Round 6 coverage of the U.S. Chess Championships taking place in St. Louis, Missouri. For Round 6, from Round 6, I selected the game Fabiano Caruana against Alexander Onischuk. Caruana, one of the tournament leaders, and Onischuk having an okay tournament with some wins and some losses around the middle of the pack. Caruana starts off with e4. Onischuk goes e5, and we get a Ruy Lopez, knight f3, knight c6. And not a Berlin defense, but something quite different from black. So after a6, kicking the bishop back, the Morphy defense, knight f6. Looks like a mainline Ruy, white castles. And now comes the variation, the early bishop to c5. An interesting way to play. I often play this way myself, although I usually throw in the move b5 first. It can transpose in some cases, and white in this position has the interesting plan or possibility of taking that pawn using the center fork trick. And knight takes, pawn takes, and now black can go back into the b5 line that I played by playing b5 here. So after b5, bishop b3, bishop takes, queen takes, and d6. Cancel that, d6. Then black is okay here. Black has a threat of c4, c5, and then c4 winning the trapped bishop. And there are different things that white can try in this position, but black can survive this. In addition to this b5 move, there's this other possibility for black in this situation, which is to take the e4 pawn. Kind of funny, but it's white is down a piece, so white's still going to have to play some moves to recover that piece. So why not grab another pawn? So knight takes e4, and then the way white rounds up the piece, the best way to round it up is to play rook to e1, taking advantage of this lineup of pieces on the e-file. Bishop drops back to e7, getting the bishop out of take, and breaking that pin. And now rook takes e4, and the knight drops back to g6. And once again, this is a position that's playable for black. So anyway, Caruana does something different. I just think those are interesting possibilities, and sometimes you can surprise your opponent with that knight takes e5 idea. Caruana goes for the main move here, which is c3, just building up the usual center with the Ruy. So b5 is played. The bishop drops back to c2. It could also go to b3, but sometimes it's useful to have it here. Extra defender for the e-pawn. d5 is played here. Now black gets in this early d5. And the main move here is d4. And I think also taking is a move as well. Yeah, but what Caruana does is something that's a little bit offbeat, but apparently that he's analyzed. So a4 takes us into a bit of a rare sideline. Black goes ahead and grabs this e-pawn. It was hanging. The bishop is attacking or defending it, attacking it, I guess, and the knight is defending it. But what white does here is a very strange move. A takes b5, ignoring the threat on his knight, but creating a threat on black's knight. And, well, this pawn can't be taken because of the pin on the rook file here. So black has gained a pawn over here and given up a pawn over here. So far the material is even, and black continues with bishop to g4, not grabbing that knight right away, just taking his time, but pinning that knight to make sure it doesn't escape. And then when white takes the knight, then black can take this knight. So still things are looking okay. And the move that's been played before, and kind of the most natural looking move here. Well, I don't know. This is a kind of a crazy position, so it's hard to say what's natural. But the move that's been tried before in this position is bishop takes e4. And once again, it's a case where there's pieces hanging all over, but black would grab the bishop here, then white can grab the knight, and then this knight is now defended, and it's no longer it's pinned, but it's no longer under attack from the under attack from the pawns. The material is even, and white castles here. Let's see, is it even, or is white up a pawn? I think white is up a pawn in this line. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, white is up a pawn, but I guess black is going to round up that pawn, and the position overall is about even. White still has some pieces to develop. So in this position, the novelty played here was b takes c6. Not, so after the pin, just going through and allowing these exchanges by taking the knight, just starting to take stuff. And the reason why this maybe hasn't been played before is it leaves white with this really wrecked-looking pawn structure. But, well, what the commentator said about this position is that this is just computer preparation in action. And in fact, if you put this position on the computer, it likes white quite a bit. So not a typical way that people might play before the age of computers, but white does have an extra pawn. It's just that his extra pawn is one of these doubled pawns here, this one or this one, and his king side looks like it's a wreck. But apparently, and with the aid of the computer, it appears that that black is white is not in any danger from his weakened king side, and in the long run, this pawn advantage is going to be important for white. So anyway, the bishop is under attack now. It drops back to e6, and rook to a5. This is a very key idea in this variation. Is there's this kind of clog. The pieces on the queen side are kind of clogged up, so the rook is developing along the a file. Very active development. Another move that gives this kind of a computer-like appearance. Not the most typical kind of development you see for the rook. But well, it comes out. It hits the bishop. Black plays a good move here. Queen d6, defending the bishop and hitting the pawn. And now f4. And black pushes on with e4, which makes some sense. Why undouble white's pawns for him, and why not push that pawn forward and try and keep this bishop shut out of the game. I was looking at different lines that might be played here because after a while, black's position just seems to be worse and worse. So there are other alternatives along the way. Black, for example, could play bishop to h3 here. But this, it's liked by the engine at first, but after a while, it goes back to giving white that steady advantage. So it appears, and there are other places where there may be variations too, but it appears that there's no real mistake in black's play along here. It's just that his position is already worse. It's kind of funny. Anyway, d4 was played here. So e takes d3, taking en passant, and not wanting to move this bishop, and then castling. So it seems like black has gotten out of trouble. And in fact, white goes for the queen trade. Queen takes and bishop takes. But well, through all of this, white has stayed a pawn up. Still not the most impressive pawn structure you ever saw. The extra pawn is either this pawn or this pawn, but it doesn't seem like there's any quick way for black to round up that pawn at this point. Let's see, rook to d1 was played here. Good active square for the rook, and now bishop to g4. And here's another place where I tried to find some kind of alternative. Rook f to e8 was suggested at first by the chess engine, but after a few moves, say bishop to e3, just developing here, knight to g4, it looks like maybe there's some pressure on the bishop here, but well, that trade will also undouble white's pawns here, and it appears there's no way to actually win the pawn on e3. And so once again, if you let the engine chew away on this for a while, it comes back to the fact that white is just better in this position. Anyway, black went for bishop g4 immediately, kicking the rook, and the rook comes up to d4. So we have two rooks deployed and controlling the board, or influencing the board from from perches on the 4th and 5th ranks and controlling sideways rather than sitting on the back rank and controlling vertically. So very interesting and unusual position. Bishop to f3 was played here. Taking a look at this pawn, maybe with hopes of rounding it up still. And now bishop to a4, defending it. And apparently with no fear that this knight, or this rook here, can be trapped. Looks like this bishop can't get in here to harass it. And yeah, white is just holding on to the extra material. Rook f to e8 now, going for that open file, looks good. Bishop to e3, blocking it. So we kind of transpose into the sort of position we might have gotten anyway. Knight to e4, in other lines, I mean. And here the bishop drops back to d1 because the knight is blocking this bishop's view of the c-pawn. This bishop drops back to d1 and just trades. And you know, all these trades do favor white because white is just getting step by step closer to an endgame where he's a pawn up. But it appears there's no good way to avoid it. The bishop has nowhere to go in this particular case, but in general it seems like white can force things with his active pieces. Rook takes d1, rook a to b8, taking a look at the b-pawn. And then just playing b4 here would keep some kind of advantage for white. But Caruana finds the most accurate move here. And I assume this was found over the board. We're probably pretty deep, and computer preparation can't go this far. He just, you know, from that sequence earlier, from his novelty, he probably looked at it a bit and was assured that he had a good position and had some of the ideas in mind. Anyway, the move that Caruana plays here is knight d2. I'm not asking you to find that move, but you might want to. The chess puzzle for this video is, you know, this is just leaving the b2 pawn hanging. So you might want to ask yourself, what is Caruana's idea after rook takes b2, which actually was played in the game. Onischuk went ahead and grabbed that pawn and equalized on the material. So if you want to try and do a tactics quiz for this video, this would be a good point to pause and try and figure out what does white do after black plays rook takes b2. Okay, if you can figure that one out, you can definitely think like Caruana, but take your time. He had lots of time to spend on this and figure it out. But if you want to know the answer, there's this crazy move. Well, the first move isn't crazy. The first move is just trading the knight, but it has a big point. Both rooks have been lifted from the back rank. So if you had this idea that there was maybe some kind of back rank weakness, you hit the nail on the head, and the way to exploit that, and the move you had to see, is that the one move in this position that wins, rook to e5. Pretty amazing move, just putting the rook there where it can't be taken really, because if the bishop takes, then rook here is checkmate. So the bishop is pinned, so this rook is not under attack from the bishop, and it's also defended by a pawn here, which is important. So if, for example, rook takes e5, then pawn takes, and this bishop still can't move because of the mate threat on the back rank, so white is winning a whole piece. What Onischuk tried is rook takes bishop, trying to win the exchange instead of giving up a whole piece, just giving up the exchange. Not win the exchange, give up the exchange rather than giving up a piece. Caruana takes the rook and maintains the threat. This bishop is still pinned, so rook to b8 unpins the bishop. Now this rook goes back to a5, putting pressure on this pawn. King to f8 was played by Onischuk, and then Caruana played c4. And at this point, Onischuk resigned. Notice Caruana's not even bothering to take that pawn, but is threatening to come in with c5. This bishop, has no great squares to go to, and if it moves out of the way, then this rook penetrates to the 7th rank, and so this is really just a hopeless ending in addition to being down material. So I just wanted to back up to this position after knight to d2. Now he didn't have to take the pawn here. The other option is to trade knights. Knight takes, and I just thought this was kind of interesting. Caruana had concluded this move, knight d2, works in all variations. So I just wanted to show some of the other variations here that he had to consider. So there's knight takes, knight, rook takes, and the nice thing about this exchange is now the rook is defending the pawn here. And then say g6 to cure some back rank weaknesses. Then white just picks up another pawn here with the rook takes a6. If black tries to hold on to the pawn for a while with the rook to a8, then b4, opening up the a file for the rook to come over, and that pawn can't be defended anyway. So opening up the second rank for the rook to come over to the a file, and doubling of rooks there. And there's nothing to prevent the doubling of rooks and winning that pawn anyway. So white would go up by 2 pawns. So that's probably why in this position Onischuk went with the rook takes b2. Just asking Caruana to show him what he had, what was his plan, and then we get this nice sequence: rook takes, knight takes, rook takes, and rook to e5. And then after a few more moves, rook takes e3. I'll just go back to the ending position. Rook a5, king f5, c4, the final nail in the coffin, and Onischuk resigned. So a very nice game from Fabiano. And with this game, Fabiano is now in the lead. Wesley So, who is even with him, drew his game today. And so it's just the two of them are in the top 2 slots there, Fabiano and So. Caruana and So, and then Ray Robson is a further half point back, so 1 point back, Ray Robson, and then at 3.5 points we have Jeff Zhang and Hikaru Nakamura. So they have some slight chance, but it's getting narrower by the day. Jeff Nakamura is just not having such a great tournament, suffering 1 loss and 2 wins. And then behind them, let's see, at the bottom we have Ruy Lopez and Chandra Akshat. And let's see, Alex Linderman at 2 points, Gadakomsky at 2 points. And then Sam Shanklin, he's had the most dynamic tournament so far. He's got 2 wins and 3 losses and only 1 draw, so he should get the prize for fewest draws. Shabalov defeated Shanklin today, so that was yesterday. So that was his 3rd loss. And then in the middle of the pack here we have Alexander Shabalov and Alexander Onischuk. So a nice tournament. Let's check out the women's side. Standings. Here we go. Cross table. So leading, there's 3 players in the lead now on the women's side. There's Tatev Abrahamyan at 4.5, along with Nazi Paikidze and Irina Krush. So the 3 of them are competing for the top spot there. Nazi Paikidze, who was leading, had a good position and some winning chances, but had to settle for a draw. So she gave up her sole leadership position. And Anna Zatonsk won her game. Anna Zatonsky, I guess. So Irina Krush and Anna Zatonsky are in the competition here, in the hunt for first place. And we'll just have to wait and see how this one turns out. So very exciting game so far, and I will see you again next time. Bye.